question was, how is technology being used in WELS classrooms? So that was my main focus, but as I was researching this topic, I also came up with this question in my head: am I ready for my classroom? Am I ready for the technology that I'm going to have available to me? So in the back of your mind, I want that secondary question: are you ready? Is this it? Also, I want to say that you guys are my primary audience, but as I was researching this, a lot of principals also asked me, principals of our WELS grade schools asked for this information, so they're the secondary audience that I didn't really have in mind, but they're also here. So the process of surveying, I gathered a bunch of questions thinking about my main question of technology used in the classroom. Professor Grunwald and Professor Dearson helped me with this, along with Professor Meyer. So we all composed our questions, and I assembled them into 2 surveys. The main survey, the heart of it, was the technology survey, and this was all the technology questions. Later along the line, Professor Meyer suggested maybe having a demographic survey, talking about the background of the schools that are being surveyed. So once I got all this information together, I had to analyze the data. It was just a wealth of information, and this is all chunked down into 12 minutes for you guys, and here I am publishing it for you. A little bit of credibility. Here's the 2 surveys, the technology survey and the demographic survey. Both were sent out to 370 principals. There was a little bit of technology failure, and so you can see that delivered emails for technology was 318, and demographics 316. And then you can see the reply rate on the bottom, 44%, 42%. I thought that was pretty good, so I kept going with my project. Now getting into the survey results, we'll talk about the demographics first. What schools were actually being targeted? So for the following presentation, the rest of the slides will be assembled like this. Question on top, then you'll have a chart on the right-hand side and the graph on the left-hand side. So this is easier for your viewing. How many students are in your school? So you'll notice that 61% of the schools surveyed, or schools responding, had somewhere between 26 and 100 students. So 61%. Then you have a majority, or a greater majority above it, and then 8% below that. What type of community does your school serve? About half of it was suburban. Half was suburban, 30% rural, 23% urban. I thought this was a little interesting. Do you have a faculty member designated as a technology coordinator? It was about half and half. It was 66 and 66 until about 12 o'clock yesterday, where one person came in and had to destroy it, 67, 66. But 50% pretty much. Now into the technology survey results. So what kinds of technologies do teachers at your school utilize? I want to point out something on the chart quick. The schools could answer any of these, whichever ones that they have available at their school. So 139 schools responded, but you'll notice that there are many more responses in the number of schools than 139. So the percentage reflects the information in the chart, but I'll share some percentages based off the 139 schools. So if you look at laptops, 124 out of 139 schools have laptops. And this is 89% of the responding schools say that. So that's amazing. And if you look at the chart, laptops has actually surpassed desktops. And if I had to guess, that has probably happened within the past couple of years. And then if I want to predict something in the future, I'd say that tablets would keep increasing. You see that 75 out of 139 schools have tablets. And so I can see tablets increasing and maybe even surpassing laptops in the future. How is the technology selected in question 1 used in the classroom? So you can see 136 schools of 139 are using it for teacher presentation. And that's kind of what we'd expect. You'd expect it to be attached to lecture and information being sent from the teacher to the students. But it's really encouraging to see that 113 out of 139 schools are using it for student presentation, And also, research and learning activities are way up there in the stats. So it's good to see that the students are also using this technology in the classroom. This is a Professor Grunwald question. What type of computers does your school provide for your students? And this is kind of what you would expect in a classroom. You'd have some computers in the classroom, but a lot of schools also have their separate computer labs. So it's pretty even in those three categories, 35%, 29%, and 28%. I also asked a question about what schools think about their own students bringing their technology to school. And 60% of the responding schools said, no, we provide enough technology for our students that they don't have to bring it. And so this also supports that 60%. Does your school provide in any way additional classes or resources besides the manual to train teachers in utilization of new software on computers or tablets? Anyways, what this question is saying, do you provide additional assistance for teachers to learn about their technology? 65% said yes. However, 34% said no. They're basically giving the technology to the teacher with the manual and saying, here you go, learn it yourself. That's how I understood this. And so I do not think that is a very good percentage. 34% of teachers are learning on their own. I think there's some way that the WELS can support that and teach the technology to the teachers. Then for the students, if your school has computer classes for students, what topics are discussed? You'll notice right away keyboarding on top, 118 out of 139. So that's almost 85% of our schools is teaching keyboarding. However, if we want to look at it the other way, 15% of our schools are not teaching keyboarding. And the way I look at this is writing and keyboarding parallel to each other in this day and age of technology? Should we be focusing on typing as much as we should be focusing on writing? I think that's a good question to ask yourselves. Also, if we look at word processing and research strategies, those are also pretty dominant in what topics are being discussed. Later on in the slideshow, you'll see that a lot of schools are talking about preparing their students for the future. And I think that word processing and researching is huge, especially in high school and college. We need them to know how to word process and research. What is your school's philosophy on technology in the classroom? This question was asked and the principals responded in text format. So I looked through all of their answers and I put them into different categories. So you'll see that right on top there's no response. I take it that these schools don't have a philosophy. That's just the way I'm interpreting it. Undetermined but trying to expand their technology. That's 16. All categories means that they touched into most, if not all, of the other categories that are underneath this. So we have integration, a gift from God to use for His glory, tools to be used, and then technology prepares the student for the future, which we just discussed. And then a balance between student and teacher focus, and teacher focus and student focus. It's really encouraging to see that student focus is number one. Technology is used focusing on the student. Also, you could put that together with balance between student and teacher focus. However, the striking information that I have is this one right here. Gift from God to use for His glory. Why would it be so low in a WELS school to say that technology is a gift from God? Why aren't we having this one? 139 schools say that technology is a gift from God to use for His glory. I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves. And I wanted to share with you two specific philosophies really quickly. This is a long answer. A lot of the answers were like this, but let's focus on just the red part. My point, use it for a reason, a good reason. Basically, when I asked, what's your philosophy? This person came right back at me and said, my philosophy is that you should have a philosophy. And I said, that's my point exactly. I'm glad you agree. So this principal said, let's have a philosophy. If you're going to use technology, you need to know why you're using it. And isn't that part of being a teacher? Why are you using it? Why are you teaching this to somebody? So we need to think of our philosophy. Next philosophy basically is copied right out of a school's handbook, it looks like. But they nailed it right on the head. Right here in the right. Christian training of children for life. And then down with the students, the students reflects the light of Jesus in the community and beyond. Again, we're turning our focus now from technology into using this technology as a gift from God and to continue to spread the gospel to all the world. Now that you know a little bit about the technology in our WELS grade schools, we're going to go back to the secondary question. Are you ready? Oh, never mind, we're not going to go that far yet. We have one last slide. Overall, where do you believe your school stands on a technology usage spectrum? You see that most schools feel very comfortable in the middle at 3, at 43%, and at 41%. Now 1 is saying that we have a copy machine, we have a faxer, and 5 is saying like we have the latest technological advances and we're using them every day in our classroom. So 3 and 4 look pretty good. However, we do have this one school that's lagging behind a little bit. Okay, now we're going to ask ourselves the question, are you ready? What can you do as future teachers in the WELS to prepare yourself for the technology that we may or may not even have in our classroom? I looked at the courses we have here at MLC, and this is one of them, Emerging Technologies in Education. So that's an on-campus course, excuse me, but also it's taught online.
Brittany, I'm sorry, about 10 seconds left.
Okay, thanks. Also, WELS Tech Camp videos, you've heard about that. Explore your technology, check the internet, but most importantly, pray continually. And don't only pray for yourself and the use of technology, but also pray for our WELS grade schools. Pray for the teachers who are out there using technology now, also for your own classmates, and pray that we can use technology to spread the gospel to all the corners of the world.